Welcome to EduTap and welcome to today's Finance 360-degree session. In today's session, we are going to discuss three very important news articles, The first one is regarding the AI tool that has been deployed by the Sebi, that is Sudarshan. Okay, so Sebi has removed the finfluencer post, and we will discuss about the deployment of the AI tool Sudarshan. The next news article is regarding Sri Lanka's first blue bond, and this has become the first blue bond on the NSE International Exchange in the IFSC. So we'll discuss about the blue bond, that what are the blue bonds, how they help the aquatic life, how they help the ocean system and such, as well as we will discuss that what is this dually listed blue bond. Okay, so how this blue bond has got dually listed, there is the MOU that has happened between the stock exchanges in India and Sri Lanka. So this we are going to discuss that what is this MOU that has been signed, and this is very important for you to understand. Okay, the third news article is regarding the RBI that has released certain guidelines for the NUCFDC, and now the NUCFDC will be allowed to privately place the shares with over 200 subscribers. So what does this mean? All of this we are going to discuss in today's session, and all these news articles are important for your understanding perspective as well as from the factual perspective they are important. Okay, you need to understand about the blue bond, the blue economy, the blue projects and such, as well as you need to understand about the dually listed shares or the dually listed financial instruments that are going to be allowed with this MOU between the stock exchanges. Okay, so let's get started with today's session. But first of all, give me a thumbs up if I'm clearly audible and the screen is visible. Okay, so I hope everything is fine. Chalo. So let's get started, and good morning Avnish. Good morning everyone. So first of all, before starting with the session, do subscribe to the YouTube channel of EduTap so you continue getting the relevant videos, and do join our Telegram channel where you will get the PDF of the session, and the link for the Telegram channel is provided in the description box below. Okay, there you will get the PDF within 24 hours. Chalo. Now starting with the first news article, so Sebi has removed more than 1.2 lakh misleading social media posts by unregistered financial influencers that are also known as finfluencers. Okay, so what has happened in the recent time, you must have seen various posts, various videos, shorts that were providing the advice that okay, you should invest in these particular shares, you should invest in these particular bonds, or you should invest in these in the instruments of some particular companies. Okay, now there are various videos, there are various shorts that are coming up on YouTube or Instagram or various platforms that are providing you the advice, that are making claims that okay, these shares are the best shares, you should invest in this kind of mutual fund, you should invest in these kind of financial instruments in the financial market. Now many of these financial influencers or many of these people that are making the videos, they are not registered with Sebi. So they are providing the advice just on their own understanding basis, or they are getting some sponsorship due to which they are providing such kind of advice that can be harmful for the regular investors. Because if we trust such videos that okay, this video has got lakhs of views, so some of the investors, some of the people thinking that okay, this must be a trustworthy video, they invest in such shares, they invest in such mutual fund, or they invest in the future and options market that can be harmful for the investors. Okay, that can lead to the losses to the retail investors. So basically Sebi has removed more than 1.2 lakh misleading social media posts that were doing false claims or that were providing certain advice without getting registered with the Sebi. So by unregistered financial influencers, and the Sebi is leveraging the artificial intelligence tools to track violations in the digital space, as said by the chairman Tuhin Kanta Pandey. Okay, so this is the idea that Sebi has removed more than 1.2 lakh misleading social media posts. Now Sebi regulations clearly mandate that investment advice can only be given by registered entities. So it is only the registered investment advisors or registered research analysts that can provide the investment advice, that can provide such kind of advice that where you should invest, in which shares you should invest, in which financial instruments you should invest. So this kind of advice can be provided by the registered entities like the registered investment advisor or registered research analyst. Okay, so this is the idea. that after you get the registration, or after you get the SEBI permission, then only you should be able to advise the people. Then you are responsible also, as well as then you have the knowledge of the market, then only you are getting the registered feature. Okay, so that is the idea. Now, to strengthen oversight, SEBI has deployed an in-house artificial intelligence system named Sudarshan. So this is the in-house artificial intelligence system named Sudarshan. This tool scans large volumes of audio, video and text content on a multilingual basis across digital platforms to identify the patterns of unregistered advisory activity and false claims. So basically SEBI has started using the in-house artificial intelligence named Sudarshan. Okay, now this artificial intelligence tool, it scans large volumes of audio, video and text content on a multilingual basis on different digital platforms to identify the patterns of unregistered advices that are being provided and the false claims that are being made. Okay. Now, the AI framework is designed to proactively flag suspicious narratives rather than relying solely on complaints. Let's say various investors, they invested in future and option market on the advice of some video content or some audio content or some text content. Some post has been some community post has been given in YouTube by a big finfluencer, by a big financial influencer, that you should invest in this particular segment, futures and options, okay, in this particular derivative segment. So now many of the investors have invested. As you know that SEBI always says that the retail investors, 9 out of 10 retail investors are making losses. So investors are ignoring these kind of warnings that 9 out of 10 investors are making losses in the future and option market. So the retail investors should not invest in the future and option market. But just seeing some video content, audio content or text content, the investor will feel that okay, I can make huge profits in the future and option market, ignoring the warning of the SEBI. And after the investor has invested the money, then the investors realize that okay, we are making losses, we are making huge losses. Okay, then the investors can make the complaints to the SEBI that okay, we got the advice from this particular video, we got the advice from this particular audio, and we have made the investment that has come up with huge losses. Now this kind of complaints, SEBI will hear to these kind of complaints, SEBI will take actions, will remove such videos or audio. So this is the removal of the audio video on the basis of the complaints. Now what this Sudarshan is going to do, what this AI tool Sudarshan is going to do is proactively flag suspicious narratives that are being provided through the video, audio, text without any complaints being raised. On the proactive basis, these kind of videos, audios will be removed. Okay, so you can understand that the proactive measure is being taken. So this is the summary. So basically AI Sudarshan, SEBI's digital guardian. So AI Sudarshan, this is the tool that is the SEBI's digital guardian. Now you can understand that this Sudarshan name has been taken from the Sudarshan Chakra, we can say. Now this is the advanced surveillance of India's financial content ecosystem. Okay, so AI Sudarshan, this is the advanced surveillance that is happening on the digital platforms to root out or to take out such certain videos and audio or the text content that is providing false claims or that is providing false narratives. Now there is the multilingual scanner that is present on the multilingual basis on in the audio, video or text format. If there is any false narrative, that will be removed. Detects false claims, it detects the narratives and it focuses on the narratives, that how the videos and the audios, they are focusing on or they are providing the false claims or they are leading to the advice without being registered. Okay, so the narrative focus, it curbs the hyped up narratives promoting risky trading. Okay, so through the AI Sudarshan, such videos, such audios will be targeted that are providing the false advice. Calibrated intervention, see, it has been said very clearly that there is the freedom of speech, there is the freedom of expression. So yes, you can make videos on the financial education, on the financial literacy, you can promote the financial education, but you should not provide any particular advice on the particular investment on shares or financial instruments, because that can only be done by the registered investment advisors or the registered research analyst. So there is calibrated intervention, the education, the financial education, financial literacy, if the channels are spreading that is good, because the channels are trying to promote the financial literacy and financial education. But there is a thin line between the financial education and the advice that is being given by unregistered financial influencers. So the line should not be crossed. If you are giving the financial education, financial literacy, your post, your video, your audio will not be removed. But if you are giving the advice without being registered, then that will be removed. Okay, real time monitoring is being done under the AI Sudarshan, and there is the target to the finfluencers, there is the target to the financial influencers. Okay, so that is the idea. Now coming to the second news article, that is Sri Lanka's first blue bond dually listed on NSE International Exchange at Gift City. So first of all, what has happened, that there is the first blue bond that has been admitted for trading within India's International Financial Service Center. Now anyone that has any idea that where do we have the IFSC? In India, where do we have the IFSC? We have the International Financial Service Center. Only one IFSC we have in Gift City. In Gift City. That is Gujarat International Finance Tech City. So India only has one IFSC, that is in the Gift City, that is in Gujarat. Okay, now for the first time a blue bond has been admitted for trading in the IFSC, in the NSE International Exchange. So NSE International Exchange, this is the subsidiary of the National Stock Exchange. So NSE International Exchange, this is the subsidiary of the National Stock Exchange, and this NSE International Exchange, this is present in the IFSC. So the blue bond, this is admitted for trading in the NSE International Exchange in the IFSC, and it has become the first blue bond to be admitted for trading within India's IFSC. What is blue bond? So blue bond is basically, the blue bond is basically a bond that is the financial instrument, that is a debt instrument that raises the fund from the investors. Okay, from multiple investors the money is being raised. From multiple investors the money is being raised, and this money, because this is a blue bond, so the money is being raised from multiple investors in the market, and then this money will be invested in the blue economy, in the blue projects. Now, what are the blue projects? That we will discuss. But basically, blue bond is a debt instrument that is raising the funds, that is raising the money from the investors, and this money will be invested in the blue projects. Now, investors will get certain returns, that is, they will get the interest rate, as well as you can understand that these investors that are investing in the blue bond, they are the aware. They have the awareness, they are environmentally aware investors, and they want to make the environmental impact. That's why they are investing in the blue bond. That's why they are investing in such kind of bonds, that are investing in the blue projects, that are investing in the ocean ecosystem and such. Okay, so blue bonds, they are the debt instruments. So blue bonds, they are the financial instrument, they are the debt instrument through which the money is raised from the investors to invest this money in the blue projects. Now, why do investors invest in these kind of blue bonds? Because first of all, the investment is happening in the blue projects, in the blue economy, so that there can be sustainable use of the ocean resources. There is sustainable use of the ocean resources. Okay, and the investors in return, they also get the interest, as well as the investors are able to make the environmental impact. So this is the idea. Okay, now let's understand more about the blue economy so that you have the clarity. So according to World Bank, see, blue economy or the blue bonds, these kind of terminologies are important because there have been questions on sustainable development, there have been questions on the green bond and such. Now you have to understand about the blue bond. According to World Bank, the blue economy is the sustainable use of ocean resources. So blue economy is the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth. So see, ocean has a lot of resources. It has the marine resources, it has the fishes, it has the tidal waves and such that can create the renewable energy. So basically there are various ocean resources that we need to use, as well as ocean through the international waters. There is the transportation that takes place from from one country to another. Okay, so this is the idea that the ocean resources are very much important for the transportation, for the creation of the, or for the generation of the renewable energy, for the fishery and such. So ocean resources, we cannot ignore it. We have to use the ocean resources, but the ocean resources should be utilized in such a manner that we are not losing these resources. Okay, and the future generations, they are able to use these resources. Okay, so blue economy, according to World Bank, the blue economy is the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihood and jobs, while preserving the health of ocean ecosystem, so that the future generations also can use these ocean resources. Okay, so basically sustainable development means that the current generation should use the resources, and should utilize the resources while keeping in mind that the future generations, we have to leave the resources for the future generations also. Okay, so sustainable development basically says that, okay, you have to use the resources, but use the resources in a sustainable manner so that we are able to leave the resources for the future generation also. So blue economy focuses on sustainable use of ocean resources. Ocean resources are important for fisheries, aquaculture, renewable ocean energy, marine transport and logistics, sustainable tourism in the ocean. Like many of the countries, they depend on the beaches and they depend on the ocean for their whole economy. Okay, marine biotechnology and research, drug discovery, genetic resources, innovation and science. So through the ocean, there are various genetic resources that we are able to find, that we are able to use in the medicines and such. Ocean knowledge and conservation. So basically the blue economy is harnessing the ocean resources for the economy, for the job creation, for the livelihoods. So that is the idea. Okay, so I hope blue economy is clear. Blue economy is the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihood and jobs, while preserving the health of the ocean ecosystem. Now eligible blue projects are basically sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. Fishery, the people are doing the fishery, the people are doing the aquaculture, so that is fine, but the fishing should be done in such a manner that it is sustainable, that we are not creating some problem in the ecosystem of the ocean. Okay, so sustainable, there should be fishing and the aquaculture that should be in a sustainable manner so that the species are able to survive and we are not making the species endangered or extinct. Okay, reducing the ocean plastic and pollution. So eligible blue projects also include trash collector, waste management, reducing the ocean and plastic pollution, decarbonized marine transport. Marine transport is important, we cannot stop it because many of the countries are connected through the oceans. Okay, so marine transport is important, but it should be decarbonized. Okay, we have to use the eco-friendly ship and green port. Offshore renewable ocean energy. So ocean energy is also used to create the renewable energy, wind turbines, tidal devices and such. Sustainable tourism. So again, many of the countries, they depend on the tourism, the economy is dependent on the tourist and such. Okay, so tourism should be continued, but it should be in a sustainable manner. Marine ecosystem restoration and conservation. So all of these are the eligible blue projects. So through the blue bond, the money is raised from the investors and this money is invested in the blue projects. Blue projects are those projects that are linked to the blue economy. Okay, that are linked to the sustainable use of ocean resources, and these are some of the eligible blue projects. So blue bonds, basically they collect the money from the investors to invest the money in the blue projects, and the investors in return, they get certain interest rate, as well as they are able to make the environmental impact. So Sri Lanka's first ever blue bond is worth 3 billion Sri Lankan rupees. Okay, issuance by DFCC Bank. So DFCC Bank is the one that has issued this first ever blue bond of Sri Lanka that has been dually listed. Now what is the meaning of dual listing? So dual listing has been facilitated under a MOU between NSE International Exchange and the Colombo Stock Exchange. So basically Colombo Stock Exchange and the NSE International Exchange, they have entered into strategic partnership, they have entered into the MOU. So Colombo Stock Exchange and NSE IFSC Limited, that is NSE International Exchange we can say, or NSE IFSC Limited, an international multi-asset exchange, wholly owned subsidiary of the NSE, they have signed the MOU. So NSE IFSC Limited and the CSC, they have signed a MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, recently to strengthen the capital market cooperation between Sri Lanka and India. Now Under this arrangement, what is happening? Under this arrangement, both institutions will work towards introducing dual listings and cross listings. Dual listing and cross listing basically mean that it enables the companies to list the same shares on both exchanges simultaneously, or to establish a presence on both markets through separate listings. So you can understand that the same shares or the same bonds can be listed on the Colombo Stock Exchange, and the same shares and the same bonds can also be listed on the NSE IFSC exchange. So this is the idea. This is the meaning of the dual listing. So as per the MOU between the CSE and the NSE IFSC Limited, as per the MOU, the dual listing has been allowed. So the same bonds that are listed on the CSE, the same bonds are allowed to be listed on the NSE International Exchange or the NSE IFSC. So I hope this is clear. Yes. So the dual listing has been facilitated under the MOU between the NSE International Exchange or the NSE IFSC and the Colombo Stock Exchange, which aimed at strengthening the cross-border capital market collaboration, enabling dual listings or cross listings, which enable companies to list the same shares, the same financial instruments on both exchanges simultaneously, or to establish a presence on both markets through separate listings. So dual listings and cross listing, they offer listed companies a greater opportunity. See, basically, if you are able to list your shares, if you are able to list your financial instruments in the Colombo Stock Exchange, as well as you are able to list your shares, you are able to list your financial instrument in the national stock, in the NSE International Exchange or in the NSE IFSC. So you can understand that you have the wider access to the investors, and you can raise the money from the Sri Lankan investors, as well as you can raise the money in the IFSC in India, where there are multiple investors, where there are investors from different countries. So you can understand that dual listing and cross listing, it provides the listed companies a greater opportunity to increase liquidity through a broader and more diverse investor base, and you can raise the money from various investors or different kind of investors. So this is the idea. So it has been allowed, the dual listing has been allowed between NSE IFSC or NSE International Exchange and the Colombo Stock Exchange. So this is the idea. Now, so coming to the next point, and Colombo Stock Exchange operates the only stock market in Sri Lanka. The CSE is licensed by Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka. Now, primarily listed. Now, this blue bond, the Sri Lanka's first blue bond, this has been introduced by DFCC Bank of Sri Lanka. So this blue bond has been introduced by, this bond has been launched by the DFCC Bank. Okay, so primarily listed, it is primarily listed on the Colombo Stock Exchange. The bond's admission, now it was listed on the Colombo Stock Exchange, and now it has been admitted, it has been allowed on the NSE IFSC Limited or NSE International Exchange also. This expands its international visibility, because it is not only listed in the Sri Lanka, but it is also listed in the IFSC now. Okay, it helped diversify the investor base by enabling the participation through the Gift Cities network or through the Gift Cities regulatory framework, as well as remember that the International Financial Service Center, it has easier economic rules and regulations. Okay, so the IFSC, the Indian IFSC as well as the IFSC in different countries, they have easier rules and regulations, they have easier economic norms. Okay, they have regulatory framework that is easier, while in reinforcing. So basically the primarily listed the blue bonds launched by the DFCC Bank or released by the DFCC Bank, it was primarily listed on the Colombo Stock Exchange, and now they have also got listed in the NSE International Exchange or NSE IFSC. Now, DFCC Bank in November 2025 introduced the blue bonds to finance the sustainable use of marine resources, aquatic pollution control, promotion of related sustainable economic activities, while offering an attractive return to the investors. So basically, the blue bond is going to raise the money from the investors and will provide the interest to the investors, and this money that is raised from the investors is going to be invested in the blue projects such as the sustainable use of marine resources, aquatic pollution control, promotion of related sustainable economic activities through the ocean. Blue bonds channel proceeds, or the money that is collected by the blue bond that is used toward marine conservation, sustainable fisheries, ocean-based economic activity, and broader water-related environmental projects. So this is the whole idea that we have discussed. So basically, Sri Lanka's first ever blue bond, it is worth 3 billion Sri Lankan rupees. Okay, that is usually tagged as LKR, Sri Lankan rupees. So that is the idea. Sri Lanka's first ever blue bond has been launched by the DFCC bank. This is worth 3 billion Sri Lankan rupees. This has been dually listed on the NSE International Exchange, on the NSE IFSC Limited at the Gift City, as well as this is also introduced, or this was first launched in CSE. CSE and the NSE International Exchange have done a MOU. Okay, so this is the idea. Now this is dually listed, so I hope you know that dual listing basically means it is listed in NSE International Exchange as well as Colombo Stock Exchange, but it was primarily listed on the Colombo Stock Exchange, then it got admitted in the NSE International Exchange. And who has released this particular bond? So DFCC Bank. Now coming to the next news article, any confusion anyone has in this particular article? Coming to the last news article, Reserve Bank of India Non-Banking Financial Companies Miscellaneous Amendment Directions 2026. So basically RBI has brought a major amendment that we have to understand. So NUCFDC can make offer or invitation to subscribe to its equity, to its shares on a private placement basis. So we will understand that why this kind of amendment had to be brought first. Okay, so first let's understand about the NUCFDC, then we will understand about the amendment that has been brought. So National Urban Cooperative Finance and Development Corporation Limited, this is an umbrella organization. This is the umbrella organization for the urban cooperative banks in India. So NUCFDC has been set up with a specific purpose to function as an umbrella organization to provide a place to the urban cooperative banks to come together and to raise their concerns or to get the funds that they require and such. So NUCFDC has been set up with a specific purpose to function as an umbrella organization for primary urban cooperative banks with an overarching mandate to strengthen the UCB sector by providing various kinds of fund-based support and non-fund-based services to its member UCBs. Now NUCFDC, how it can get the members. So a urban cooperative bank, if it wants to become the member of the corporation, it basically has to invest in the shares of the NUCFDC. So the member UCBs, the member urban cooperative banks, they can become the member, or a urban cooperative bank can become a member if it gets the shares, if it buys the shares of the corporation. I hope this is clear. So who can become the member of the NUCFDC? Only the urban cooperative banks can become the member of the NUCFDC. How they can become the member? By buying the shares of the NUCFDC. So major shareholders of the corporation are the urban cooperative banks only. Okay, so NUCFDC is the umbrella organization for primary urban cooperative banks with an overarching mandate to strengthen the UCB sector by providing various kind of services to the urban cooperative banks that are the member of the corporation. Now, to achieve its objective, it is necessary that the corporation grants membership to all 1400 plus urban cooperative banks as early as possible. That means all the urban cooperative banks, 1400 plus urban cooperative banks, should be the member of this corporation. How they can become the member of the corporation? By buying the shares of the corporation. Okay, that's why it has been said. See, before the statutory provisions or the legal provisions, the statutory provisions of the Companies Act 2013 read with Companies Prospectus and Allotment of Securities Rules 2014, it limit the private placement offered to 200 persons in aggregate in a financial year. So basically it means that private placement offer is limited. Private placement means selling the securities to a pre-selected number of institutions or individuals rather than publicly in the open market. So private placement basically means that you have the gym membership. You have the gym membership. If you have the gym membership, then only you can enter the gym. If you do not have the membership, you cannot enter the gym. Similarly, private placement of securities basically means that if you are under the pre-selected, there are pre-selected investors. If you are in this pre-selected group of investors, then you can buy the shares or then you can invest in the securities in the private placement. So private placement basically means selling the securities to a pre-selected group of investors. Okay. Now, as you know that in this corporation, the urban cooperative banks can invest. It is the urban cooperative banks that can buy the shares of the corporation to get the membership of the corporation. So urban cooperative banks have to buy the shares of the corporation to get the membership of the corporation. Now it is said that in a financial year, there are only 200 persons, that is 200 entities that can buy the shares under the private placement offer. So if the corporation is giving the private placement offer, if the corporation is giving the private placement offer of its shares to the pre-selected group of the urban cooperative bank, you can understand that in a year it can only raise the funds, or it can only provide its shares to 200 companies, to 200 urban cooperative banks, while the urban cooperative banks are 1400 plus in number. So it will take nearly 7 to 8 years for the corporation to get all the urban cooperative banks as its members. So it can take a lot of time. That's why it was creating certain problem. So NUCFDC, first of all, this corporation, it is the umbrella organization for the primary urban cooperative banks. So it can, the primary urban cooperative banks, if they want to become the member of the corporation, they need to buy the shares of the corporation. Okay, they need to have some interest in the corporation, so they need to buy the shares of the corporation. Now the NUCFDC, as it is selling its shares to the urban cooperative banks majorly, or to the cooperative development corporations majorly, so NUCFDC, it is selling its shares majorly to the urban cooperative banks. It cannot sell its shares to the retail investors or to the other investors. Okay, so as it is selling its shares to the urban cooperative banks, it is doing the private placement offer. That is, through the private placement, it is selling its shares to the pre-selected group, that is the urban cooperative banks. So through the private placement offer, the corporation is selling its shares to the urban cooperative banks. Now under the private placement, the shares could be sold. So the statutory provisions, it limit the private placement offer to 200 persons in aggregate in a financial year. That means in a year, only from 200 urban cooperative banks the money can be raised and the share can be sold to only 200 urban cooperative banks in a year. So to make 1400 UCBs your member, it will take a lot of time. That's why the RBI has made certain changes. So the restriction would constrain. Now this restriction, this particular restriction, that in the private placement offer, when you are privately placing the shares, when you are privately selling the shares to only a certain group, when you are privately selling the shares to only a particular group, you are limited to offer the shares to only 200 persons or 200 entities in aggregate in a financial year. So this restriction would constrain the corporation from granting membership to all urban cooperative banks in a faster manner. It will take a lot of years, 7 to 8 years it will take to provide the membership to all the urban cooperative banks, so it became a problem. Now it has been said that the above rules, they shall not be applicable to NBFCs. The above rules, they are not applicable to the NBFCs which are registered with the Reserve Bank of India under the RBI Act of 1934 if they comply with the regulations made by the Reserve Bank of India in respect of offering or inviting the private placement, the group of the investors for the private placement. So basically the NBFCs that are registered under the Reserve Bank of India under the RBI Act of 1934, and these NBFCs, they are following the rules set by the Reserve Bank of India for the private placement. So these kind of NBFCs will not have to follow the other rules. So basically NUCFDC, this is a NBFC that is registered under the Reserve Bank of India. So RBI can make certain rules for the private placement done by the NUCFDC of its shares. So it will not have to follow the previous rules. Okay, it will not have to follow the Companies Act 2013 rules. This is the idea. So now, therefore, in exercise of the powers conferred by the Section 45L of the RBI Act and all the powers enabling it in this regard, RBI being satisfied that it is important in the public interest, the RBI has released these directions, which is stating that NUCFDC may make offer or invite the different urban cooperative banks, or it can invite the investors to subscribe to its shares on a private placement basis to more than 200 persons in aggregate in a financial year. So this kind of restriction of 200 persons has been removed for the NUCFDC. So usually under the private placement, if you are selling your shares to a particular pre-selected group of entities or individuals, so basically you were limited to 200 persons in a financial year. You can only raise the funds or you can only sell the shares to 200 persons in a financial year. But now, as per the RBI regulation or as per the RBI amendment, the NUCFDC particularly, if it is doing the private placement of its shares and it is selling the shares to the urban cooperative banks or it is selling the shares to the pre-selected group, then it can raise funds, it can sell the shares to more than 200 persons in a financial year. I hope this is clear. Any confusion? So now there are certain restrictions or there are certain conditions that has to be followed, that the offer or invitation for the private placement of the shares under these guidelines shall only be made to UCBs and the National Cooperative Development Corporation. That means if the private placement of the shares is being done by the NUCFDC and the NUCFDC is selling the shares to a pre-selected group, then and the more than 200 persons, the private placement of the shares is happening to more than 200 persons, then in this case the funds can only be raised and the share can only be sold to the urban cooperative banks and the NCDC. So this is the idea. So private placement of shares can only happen to the urban cooperative banks and to the NCDC. Okay. So offer or invitation for the private placement of shares under these guidelines shall only be made to UCBs and NCDC. NUCFDC, that is the corporation, shall not extend any loan or advance or any kind of financial accommodation against the security of its own shares. That means the corporation against its own shares cannot provide any kind of loans or advances. As well as proceeds of the share capital raised, the money that has been raised from the sale of the shares shall be used for the purposes consistent with the mandate of the corporation as approved by the Reserve Bank of India. So whatever money has been raised by selling the shares to the urban cooperative banks and to the NCDC, so whatever money has been raised, that should only be used for certain purposes as approved by the Reserve Bank of India. The corporation shall submit a quarterly statement containing the amount of equity that has been raised, that means the shares that has been sold and the money that has been raised, the number and category of subscribers, how many subscribers have subscribed to the shares, 300, 400 and such, subscription amount, how much money has been raised basically during the quarter as well as cumulatively till now. To Department of Regulation, Reserve Bank of India Central Office within 15 days from the close of the quarter. So quarterly report has to be sent to the Reserve Bank of India Department of Regulation and the quarterly report should be within 15 days of the end of the quarter. This is the idea. So basically the private placement offer of the shares was limited to 200%. So you can offer your shares in the private placement to a pre-selected group. You can offer your shares, but it was limited to 200 persons only or 200 entities. You can offer your shares to only 200 entities in a financial year under the private placement. This kind of restriction has been removed for the NUCFDC. NUCFDC can do the private placement of shares and can sell the shares in the privately placed market to a pre-selected group of more than 200 entities in a financial year. Okay, but the NUCFDC can only sell its shares in the private placement to the UCBs and the NCDC. NCDC is basically a statutory organization under the Ministry of Corporation, Government of India. This was established in 1963 with the objective of promoting, strengthening and developing the farmer cooperatives and such. So this is a major change that has happened, as the NUCFDC may make offer or invite to subscribe to its shares on a private placement basis to more than 200% in aggregate in a financial year. The direction above shall remain in force from the date of issue. That means this is immediately applicable as well as this will be applicable till March 31st, 2029. Okay, so this will be applicable till 2029. This is the idea. Now we are done with the articles, the 3 articles. Coming to the first question, this you have to answer, that which country has released the first ever blue bond of 3 billion. This is issued by the DFCC Bank. This has been dually listed on the NSE International Exchange and the Colombo Stock Exchange. Now this is the first blue bond to be admitted for trading within India's IFSC. So this is the first question that you have to answer. The second question is in front of you. This is the multi-statement based question from the NUCFDC. So you have to tell that which of the statements given below is or are correct. So there are the 3 statements. So do tell that which of the statements given above are correct. Okay, is or are correct. So this is it for today. Thank you everyone. Thank you for joining the session. I hope you enjoyed the session. If there is any confusion, do write in the comment section below. So this is it for today. Thank you everyone.